Look, before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on Gadigal land and acknowledge elders both past and present and emerging. It is important to recognise that wherever you are, we are on Aboriginal land, and I would like to pay my respects to all Aboriginal people, past, present and emerging. Well, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. It has been a while since we have held an online presentation, but we do think it's important to keep you up to date with two really key areas that we're working on at the moment, and that's around assessment and reporting, as well as our technology strategy moving forward into 2021. And it is good to see so many familiar names and faces, and I am looking forward to seeing you all in person when the restrictions actually ease. But you will be pleased to know that we are on schedule for our Year 7 students to have a walk through the tower by the end of the year. And I know that I'm certainly very excited to see their faces when they see the wonderful new facilities that we have here at Inner Sydney High School. But today you'll be hearing from Chris in relation to our technology strategy, and Nigel will provide an overview of the Family Guide to Assessment and Reporting, which was emailed to you earlier in the week. So I'll now hand over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Robin. So hello to the whole community out there. I know that you all will be quite aware that the school has been very busy in terms of developing a technology strategy for 2021. I know that an email has come out about this strategy, and I just want to take this moment to thank all our community for the extensive consultation that we've done and investigated the many options that we have to us here at Inner Sydney High School. Now, just a couple of things before we sort of present where we're going to proceed with our technology strategy. A couple of key considerations that have informed this decision. The first key consideration has been that no more devices are to be supplied as part of the build project. So where we were very fortunate through a lot of hard work through the team in procuring enough devices for one-to-one device for all our Year 7 students, unfortunately, those funds have now been exhausted, and as part of the project where we received it previously, we will not be able to receive it this year. Also, another key consideration was equity for all students, ensuring that all students do have opportunity and to access these devices. Also, another factor was the fact that there's a cost associated for devices that are being used within the school to leverage the technology to support teaching and learning for the students. And we really wanted to harness that and maintain that momentum of the school's educational model and the contemporary learning practices that we've implemented this year for Year 7. So in summarising all of that, those key considerations, the school, through extensive consultation with the PNC as well as investigating other options, has decided that we will be looking at the school to supply devices for 2021. Now, obviously, that is a significant outlay of cost from the school. The models that we're going to be using are the same that are currently being used by the Year 7 students. These models, in fact, are very high end. They do retail for about $1,400. And it is important to note that while there's many devices out there, this device specifically suits the purpose of our educational model and the students engaging with them. Now, as part of this technology strategy, we'll be looking at within the school to store and manage the devices for students, and that sort of takes the burden off the parents and carers a lot. In terms of managing it on site, we will have charging stations similar to what we have this year for students, so they'll be able to manage and store those devices here on site. Now, as part of this, there is something that we do ask of our community, and it is around a technology levy that we'll be asking from families of $200 that will support both the purchase of the device and the upkeep, and as well as on-site support. And that will be something that is paid every year as part of the school fees. But there is also an opportunity to make an application for student support if it is needed. Now, just a couple of the advantages and the reasons that we're going in terms of using this as our technology strategy is the fact that we can assure to every single student one-to-one device in 2021. That is both our Year 7 and our Year 8 cohort. It also means that we're ready for day one, term one, 2021, because it means that there isn't those unknowns about families having to go out and purchase a device like a lot of schools that do BYOD. It is also ensuring that it's more accessible and cost effective for all families. We think that that $200 levy, that yearly levy, is far worth its weight in terms of the costing, considering that the school is going to upkeep and manage those devices for the students. It also ensures that there is on-site support for the devices, where in a previous BYOD school, you might need to go off-site. A student has an issue with the device, they need to go off to a technician to get it fixed, we actually will have on-site support here, and that levy will contribute to that also. And also the fact that these devices have DOE imaging, so the department's imaging, which enables it to not only connect with the Wi-Fi, but also the printer and other technology within the school. And it is very seamless because it is a department device. It also ensures that there is equity, that all students have the same device and the same opportunity to work with the same technology across different platforms. The Student Hub, because obviously this was a factor that was brought up as part of our consultation, the Student Hub, which is in our incredible tower, will also have extended hours of operation, so allow students both before and after school access to these devices, which again makes it easier for the fact that they're stored on site, but also that they do have access to a really lovely space there to be able to do their prep work, or also, you know, access any sort of further support from staff in terms of checkpoints or whatever it might be. So look, in summary, in terms of this technology strategy, basically the school will be providing these powerful devices that are critical as we scale up into the tower and to support the innovative learning that's happening here at Inner Sydney High School. And we felt that rather than purchase the device, we are asking our in-SID community and families to support the technology strategy by paying a $200 levy for procurement and maintenance of the device. So that is the strategy. Obviously, at the end of this Zoom, you'll have an opportunity if you have any questions about it.
And Chris, there is actually the handout that went with the email in relation to the technology strategy.
Absolutely. So the email that was sent out did have a couple of attachments. One was what we're speaking about now, was a little bit of a key fact sheet. But if there is anyone in the community that does still require that, please contact the school and we're happy to take you through it.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, then I'll hand over now to Nigel in relation to the Family Guide to Assessment and Reporting. Over to you.
Thanks, Robin. As many of you would have got on that email, we attached a guide for families for student growth and attainment at INSID. And the real reason for that is, as we've emphasised in the past, families play a huge role in helping students grow and being part of that assessment process. And this guide, I know you have it on electronic copy, is a way of bringing you into that conversation and sharing that understanding a little bit with the community. The process in terms of getting it to this stage actually involved the PNC and extensive consultation with a lot of our teachers and our students. So it's a document that involves all of us. It's not just a teacher document. It's something that was written to bring the learning conversations with students kind of at home as well. So there's a few things, and I won't read out the document in its entirety, but a few kind of things to highlight there is the document talks about the why assess, you know, why do we actually give students tests or give them assignments? And the real reason for that, as the title of the guide suggests, it's all about student growth. And one of the key things that's talked a little bit about in the guide, it's about student growth in the framework of what we call formative practice. And what that means is that's a constant check-in as to what students know to allow them to make decisions about their learning and where to go next. And also for teachers in our practice to be formative in the way that we teach our classes and we take those next steps with our students. So that question about why do we assess, it's really to aid the growth and attainment of our kids. And it really is within that framework of formative practice for both students and for teachers. The how about that is, or the how we assess is also mentioned briefly in the guide. And no doubt you may have heard the term checkpoints before from the students at the school. Checkpoints is kind of the INSID way of talking about these medium cycle, and that's talked a little bit about in the guide. Checkpoints are this way that we discuss medium cycle formative assessments. So there are these short assessments. They take, you know, half a learning session. It's not a big assignment. It's not an end of semester test, but they're short, medium cycle between, you know, 2 to 4 term. And students do them and get feedback on them to really inform, again, as I mentioned, the formative practice of themselves and of us as teachers. Now, you may have heard of the concept of resitting. That's something that I think we can all agree we're really proud of having at INSID. It's something that I do believe is unique to what we've been able to achieve in our new school, where students are actually given the opportunity to act on the feedback they get from doing those checkpoints and actually take action in terms of the feedback they get. and actually improve their understanding and their skills. And it's been really heartening getting into the swing of things now, especially as the head teacher of maths and science. I have had really, really great growth reports from both my classes, but also my teachers in maths and science, that there's been a multitude of students who have made really significant growth from acting on the feedback that they got on the checkpoint. So that's a really big tick and highlight of my last few weeks here. So that's the how, and as I said, I can talk about this for hours, but it's there in the guide, and I want to just give you the key points. Now, the last part of the puzzle, the why, the how, is this. It's the communicating to the families and communicating to our community. One of the big points that's outlined in the guide and that I want to communicate now is around the use of the Central Parent Portal and the continuous assessment module. At the moment, the school is up and running in getting that checkpoint feedback that we give to the kids pushed out in the Central Parent Portal as well, in this thing called the continuous assessment module. So what you as families will be able to do is to use your app on your phone to have a look at the continuous assessment module, get a notification of when, say, a student has done a checkpoint in science. You'd be able to see their grade, overall grade, whether it's an outstanding, a basic, a sound, and also information as to when the resit or what the further action can happen from that. And the idea behind that is, as it's outlined in the guide, to have a real good learning conversation with the students, to be part of this community to help grow them, to have that conversation at home, to ask a few questions. And there's questions outlined in the guide here about, can you have a look at the criteria? Did you understand the marking rubric? What are you going to do to improve? How may you go about that? Are you sure you can access all of the resources like Learning Hub or talk to the teachers or anything like that? So having that conversation at home, and there's more questions listed in the guide, is the real purpose of pushing out that information for the community and for parents on the Central Parent Portal. Now, we'll be sending out a little bit more information in terms of how to access that. And as always, feel free to contact the school to come in, and we are more than happy to help parents get onto that Central Parent Portal to access that information. Because as I've already alluded to, you guys are a really important part of growing our students. There's two other parts of that communication purpose of assessment. One of them is the e-portfolios, and that's something we're really working on with our kids to develop a portfolio of their work, to monitor their own learning, to monitor their checkpoints. And that actually feeds into the third thing, which is the SLIC, which many of you would have participated earlier on in the term, the student-led inspired conference, or the parent-teacher night. So that SLIC actually rounds out kind of this suite of communication and the way that we want to involve the families in growing the students. And the checkpoint feedback, the assessment feedback, all of that comes together in the SLIC, where we can actually have that in-person conversation about how students are going. So there's a few things there: the why, the assess, the how, a bit about the checkpoints and the resitting, and then the important part, the main thing I do want to probably emphasize is the Central Parent Portal, where parents can access that information. Because as I said, the big unique thing is the resitting and being able to improve on their results, and having families able to access that as well and to talk to their kids about it is really, really powerful. Now, lastly, to finish, I thought I would just round out by talking about how this process has been very informative and quite dynamic. And if I speak for the school, really hardening in how our community has been involved. So we actually took the document the one that was emailed out to a PNC working group, where we talked about some of the key features. We talked about some themes and ideas in which we could do some action, we could take action on, and that's part of that has come out in this guide here. But what I wanted to read to you is kind of what some of our PNC members put together to be put at the front of the assessment guide, because I think it really captures the real purpose of what we're trying to do, both in our formative assessment and what we do differently, but also it really captures the sense of community and participation that we have in the learning of our students. So I'm going to read it verbatim, which may sound a bit weird given the context, but what it says: you may have recently had a read-through of the INSID's Family Guide to Assessment. What you may not be aware of is that the P&C had the opportunity to input into the guide and the school's approach to assessment. What is unique in the approach is regular feedback on checkpoints, which means no more waiting for an end-of-term report. Resitting a checkpoint, where a student feels they want to do better, they can opt to do a redo, and the use of the parent portal for continuous feedback. INSID has a unique opportunity to start from scratch in how to best assess, provide feedback, and ultimately develop and grow our children. And this is off to a great start. This is only the beginning, and the school is open to continuing the conversation to the approach to make it even better. Please provide feedback either to the school or come and discuss further at the P&C meetings. Now, I'll include the information here. It says held first Wednesday of every month, and the email, if you want to write it down, is innersydneyhighschool@pncaffiliate.org.au. So if you want to be a part of that, we really, really welcome your input. That's not the verbatim part. Back to it. The approach taken has the support and endorsement of the P&C, and we encourage you to read the guide to understand how it will support your child's learning and growth. Now, I wanted to finish on that because I think it does an excellent job in summing up what we are hoping to achieve at the school, and it speaks to that dynamic nature of continuing the conversation on with you guys. So as Chris alluded to with potential questions about technology stuff, if you do have any questions, feel free to pop it in the chat. But I might pass back to Robin now.
That's okay. So what we might do now is just check if there are any questions we might need to answer. So just bear with us just for a minute, and we'll see if there's any questions.
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet. So
don't be shy.
Feel free to ask any questions. You might even want to have a think about what's actually in the fact sheet for the technology strategy, and also about the family guide to assessment and reporting. As Nigel and Chris mentioned, by starting a school from scratch, it does give us the opportunity to do some pretty innovative areas of our work. And it's a real privilege, I think, to be able to really strive quite deeply in these areas. So look, what we might do, if there are no questions from our community, I've just got Nigel would like to add one more thing, and then we might add one more thing about the technology as well.
Thanks, Robin. I did forget. I wrote it down and I forgot to read it. So just touching on that unique opportunity, one of the things that came up in the P&C feedback was that we'll need to communicate to you guys that while what we're doing is really exciting and we're given a great opportunity, it's actually not, you know, so different. Like, we are still doing all of the NESA hours. We're meeting our commitments with the board. It's not something where there should be a sense of unease, because what we're really doing is just best practice, and we have the opportunity starting from scratch to just achieve that best practice. And what we're hoping to do in the next year, and as the journey continues, is to release more podcasts, or not more podcasts, a podcast followed by more podcasts, little snippets of information, and doing more videos and Zoom calls like this to really unpack some of the things that I could talk about for hours, and maybe I will, about things like formative practice and how we can implement feedback effectively, and the role parents can play in that. So that's the last thing I had to write down, was there's more to come, podcasts, etc. So I just wanted to mention that.
That's fine. Thank you. Anything else, Chris?
No, it's just interesting. It is very much a partnership, like it is between the student, the school, as well as the family. And I think that that's an important part, because everyone does play their role. Just, you know, in terms of the technology strategy, a lot more information will be coming out just in terms of what it actually looks like on deck at INSID. You know, in particular, you know, access to the student hub and what that will look like, and the hours. But just sort of rest assured that it will be 5 days a week where students can access outside of their learning sessions their device, because we really feel that that is necessary in terms of part of this strategy, ensuring that they can access it to do what it is that they need to do outside of the classroom. So just, we'll keep you posted in regards to that, but just know that, you know, I appreciate that it looks like there aren't any questions, which means that it must be very clear, which is wonderful. So, but thank you to all the people that contributed to that along the journey, and obviously the extensive work that's happened here at INSID in terms of finalising this strategy, because it has been an ongoing process, hasn't it?
It certainly has, Chris. Look, on that note, I'd like to say thank you so much for your time this afternoon. We really hope that as a community, COVID has obviously been such a challenging time for everybody, but fingers crossed that by the end of the year, everybody, including, you know, our Year 7 students and parents, will be able to have a great opportunity to see the tower, our building 4, in its completion by the end of the year. So thank you once again. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.